The calm of a clear, sunny day shattered in an instant. The people of Earth had seen strange things before: meteor showers, solar eclipses, even the occasional comet. But this was something entirely different. A colossal rift tore open in the atmosphere, a swirl of pulsating green and violet light spiraling outward like a tear in the fabric of reality itself. From this interstellar wound emerged a shadow, so vast and ominous it seemed to devour the sky. The Draco-Seraphis, a name unknown to humans but infamous across the galaxy, descended. It was unlike anything Earth's scientists or storytellers had ever imagined. Its body, a mix of shimmering obsidian scales and bioluminescent patterns, rippled with an alien majesty that was as terrifying as it was awe-inspiring. Its wings stretched wider than a city block, each beach stirring hurricanes of wind that flattened trees and rattled buildings. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, twin beacons of molten gold that seared through the haze of panic below. The creature's roar pierced the heavens, an unholy sound that sent shockwaves rippling through the atmosphere. It wasn't just a roar, it was a declaration, a signal to all who heard it that their lives had been irrevocably changed. Entire cities fell silent as people stared upward, frozen by the primal fear such a sound evoked. And then, chaos. Military forces around the world scrambled into action. Jets streaked across the sky, deploying missiles that exploded harmlessly against the dragon's impenetrable scales. Tanks fired from below, their shells ricocheting like pebbles. The Draco-Seraphis barely flinched, its movements deliberate and devastating. A single sweep of its tail toppled skyscrapers, and its razor-sharp claws carved deep gashes into the earth. In orbit, unseen by Earth's inhabitants, the Antari watched the destruction unfold. Their vessel, a massive, crystalline structure resembling a swirling nebula, hovered silently. The Antari were a race of scientists and philosophers, their technology centuries beyond anything humans could comprehend. To them, Earth was just another experiment, another piece in their grand puzzle of universal dominance. "This planet will not last long," mused Zinthar, the Antari leader, his many eyes flickering with cold amusement. "The Draco-Seraphis is perfection incarnate. No force on this primitive world can withstand it." The Antari Council nodded in agreement, their translucent forms shimmering as they observed the battle through holographic displays. They had engineered the Draco-Seraphis eons ago, fusing the DNA of the most lethal predators across galaxies into one ultimate organism. It was their weapon of choice for testing the resilience of other civilizations. Those that survived earned a place among the stars. Those that didn't were forgotten. On Earth, the destruction continued unabated. Cities burned, skies darkened with ash, and the cries of terror echoed across the globe. In the countryside, far removed from the chaos, Emily Parker sat on a swing in her backyard. Her tiny hands gripped the frayed ropes as she kicked her legs, her laughter filling the air. "Higher, Daddy. Higher," she called out to the empty yard, imagining her father was still there to push her. He had passed away a year ago, but Emily's imagination filled the void with memories of his warm smile and gentle voice. Her world was a small, peaceful bubble, unburdened by the worries of adults or the news of the strange phenomenon that had gripped the planet. But that bubble was about to burst. The ground beneath Emily's swing trembled, the vibrations growing stronger with each passing second. Birds scattered from the trees, and her dog, Rusty, barked wildly before running into the house. Emily stopped swinging, her eyes widening as she felt the earth shift beneath her feet. Then she saw it. The Draco-Seraphis landed in the meadow just beyond her backyard, its massive claws sinking into the soil. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the ground, knocking Emily off her swing. She sat there, wide-eyed, as the alien dragon's head turned toward her. Its glowing eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to stand still. It was a moment of impossible contrast, the most innocent of beings confronted by the most fearsome. Emily didn't scream, didn't run. She simply stared in awe at the creature before her, her small heart pounding not with fear but with wonder. The dragon sniffed the air, its massive nostrils flaring as it caught her scent. It tilted its head, its golden eyes narrowing as if trying to make sense of this tiny, fragile thing that dared to face it. Far above, in the Nantari's ship, Zinter's amusement turned to confusion. "What is it doing?" he hissed, his voice sharp with irritation. "Why hasn't it destroyed her?" The Nantari scientists scrambled to analyze the dragon's behavior, but their data made no sense. The Dracoseraphus, a creature designed for pure destruction, seemed curious. It lowered its massive head, bringing its snout closer to the trembling girl. Emily slowly stood up, brushing dirt off her overalls. She took a hesitant step forward, her tiny hands reaching out toward the dragon's enormous, scaled nose. The alien creature growled softly, a sound that rumbled through the ground like distant thunder. "Hi," Emily said softly, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "Are you lost?" The Nantari watched in stunned silence. Zinter leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing. "Impossible," he muttered. "No creature can defy its programming." But down on Earth, the Dracoseraphus had done just that. The meadow was silent except for the faint rustling of the wind and the deep, rhythmic breaths of the Dracoseraphus. Its enormous head hovered just a few feet above Emily, its glowing eyes focused intently on her. She felt the warmth of its breath, a mix of metal and smoke, as she took another cautious step forward. "Are you okay?" Emily asked again, her voice soft and unafraid. To her, the dragon wasn't a monster, it was something magical, like the creatures her father used to tell her stories about before bedtime. The Dracoseraphus rumbled deep in its chest, the sound reverberating through the ground. It wasn't a growl of aggression, but something different. Its massive nostrils flared as it sniffed the air around her, as if trying to make sense of the small, fragile creature standing before it. Above them, the Nantari's crystalline ship hovered like a ghost. Zinter, the leader of the Nantari, stared at the display, his translucent form flickering as his many eyes focused on the scene below. "What is she doing?" one of his advisors asked, their voice a mix of curiosity and disbelief. "I don't know," Zinter admitted, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "But this is not normal. The Dracoseraphus should have destroyed her by now." The alien scientists scrambled to analyze the data coming from their biotechnological masterpiece. The neural pathways in the dragon's brain were lighting up in ways they had never observed before, pathways that indicated something more than raw instinct, something almost akin to thought. On the ground, Emily's hand brushed against the dragon's nose. Its scales were warm and smooth, with a faint electric pulse beneath them, as if the creature's body was humming with energy. She giggled, her fingers tracing the glowing bioluminescent patterns along its snout. "You're like a big firefly," she said with a grin. "A really big firefly." The dragon blinked slowly, the glow in its eyes dimming slightly. It made a sound low in its throat, something between a growl and a purr. The vibration tickled Emily's fingers, and she laughed, completely unbothered by the towering creature before her. The Nantari ship trembled slightly as the energy between the girl and the dragon created an inexplicable ripple. Inside, Zinter slammed his clawed appendage onto the console. "Activate the neural override. This experiment is failing." The Nantari scientists hesitated. "But, sir, the override may damage do it." Zinter bellowed. Back on Earth, the Dracoseraphus suddenly roared, its body jerking as if struck by an invisible force. Emily stumbled backward, her eyes wide with concern. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling. The dragon thrashed, its tail carving deep trenches into the meadow as it fought against Nantari's control. The glow in its eyes brightened, flickering erratically as the override attempted to force it back into submission. The once melodic hum of the creature turned into a pained growl. Far above, the Nantari struggled to maintain control. Zinter barked orders, but the Dracoseraphus resisted, its bond with Emily disrupting the neural override. The alien dragon, engineered for destruction, was no longer just a weapon, it was something more. Emily's heart ached as she watched the dragon writhe in pain. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew it was wrong. Gathering her courage, she ran back to the dragon, standing in front of it with her arms outstretched. "Stop it," she shouted, looking up at the sky, though she had no idea who or what she was addressing. "You're hurting him." The Dracoseraphus stilled, its movements slowing as it focused on her once more. Emily placed her hands on its nose again, her small palms pressing firmly against the scales. The dragon's body relaxed, its glowing eyes softening as the override's influence faltered. In orbit, Thentari stared in shock as the dragon's neural pathways stabilized, syncing with new signals originating from the little girl. "Impossible," Zinter whispered. "She's connected to it." Back on Earth, Emily smiled. "It's okay," she said soothingly. "I won't let anyone hurt you." The dragon let out a deep, resonant sound, lowering its massive head to the ground. Emily climbed onto its snout, her tiny frame dwarfed by the sheer size of the creature. She patted its scales reassuringly. "See? You're not scary," she said, grinning. "You're just a big softy." The dragon rumbled in agreement, its body vibrating with what could only be described as a purr. Thentari watched in stunned silence as their deadliest weapon knelt before a human child, its glowing eyes filled with something they had never seen before: trust. Zinter's advisors turned to him, their expressions unreadable but questioning. "What do we do now?" one of them asked. Zinter scowled, his many eyes narrowing. "This changes nothing," he hissed. "The experiment will continue. The girl is an anomaly, but anomalies can be eliminated." As Thentari plotted their next move, Emily sat atop the dragon's snout, her laughter echoing through the meadow. To her, it was the beginning of a grand adventure. To the rest of the universe, it was the beginning of something far greater than they could ever comprehend. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fiery orange and deep purple. In the meadow, the Dracoseraphus rested with Emily perched comfortably between the ridges on its massive neck. The dragon's bioluminescent scales glowed faintly in the dim light, their patterns shifting in rhythm with its slow, steady breaths. Emily swung her legs, looking up at the stars. "Do you come from up there?" she asked, pointing at the sky. The dragon tilted its massive head slightly, the glow of its eyes softening as it rumbled in response. In her mind, Emily saw flashes of something, not words, but images and feelings. Vast alien landscapes filled with swirling clouds of gas, other creatures like the Dracoseraphus flying in formation. She saw chains, harsh lights, and the looming figures of Thentari. She felt its pain, its longing to be free, and its confusion about the tiny creature it had bonded with. Emily placed a hand on the dragon's neck. "You're not bad. They made you this way," she whispered. "I'll help you. I promise." Far above, aboard Thentari's ship, Zinter seethed as he reviewed the data pouring in. The bond between Emily and the Dracoseraphus was unlike anything Thentari had ever seen. The dragon's neural pathways were now entirely synced with Emily's brainwaves, and it responded to her emotions and commands as if she were its master. But it wasn't just control, there was a connection between them, something organic and mutual. "Sir," one of the advisors ventured cautiously, "this anomaly could be the key to understanding the limits of our creation. Perhaps we should study - we are not here to study anomalies." Zinter snapped, his many eyes flashing with anger. "This child is interfering with the experiment. She must be eliminated, and the Dracoseraphus will be restored to its purpose." Thentari prepared their next move, a strike designed to sever the bond between the girl and the dragon by force. A shimmering sphere of energy formed in the ship's core, its power capable of disrupting any organic neural connection. Zinter watched with grim satisfaction as the weapon charged. Back on Earth, Emily and the Dracoseraphus had moved to the edge of the forest. The dragon's massive form dwarfed the trees, but it moved with surprising grace, carefully avoiding the fragile structures around it. Emily pointed at a small stream, laughing as she urged the dragon to drink. "You're thirsty, aren't you?" she said. The dragon lowered its head, its glowing nostrils flaring as it sniffed the water before lapping it up. Emily clapped her hands. "See? Isn't that better?" Suddenly, the dragon tensed. Its scales bristled, and its glowing patterns shifted into sharp, angular shapes. Emily felt it too, a strange hum in the air, a pressure that made her ears pop and her chest tighten. "What's wrong?" she asked, clutching the ridge of the dragon's neck. The Dracoseraphus let out a low growl and spread its wings, shielding Emily as a beam of shimmering energy shot down from the sky, carving a smoking crater into the ground just a few feet away. The girl screamed, clinging tightly to the dragon as it roared, a sound so powerful it shook the trees and scattered the birds. Above them, the Antari's ship loomed, its crystalline structure glowing ominously. Zinter's voice echoed through a translator beam, cold and mechanical. "Human child, you are an anomaly. Surrender the Dracoseraphus, or face destruction." Emily looked up, her small fists clenched. "No. You're the bad guys. You made him hurt people, but he doesn't want to. Leave him alone." Zinter's laugh was sharp and cruel. "You misunderstand, little one. The Dracoseraphus is not a pet. It is a weapon, and you are irrelevant." The ship fired another beam, but this time the dragon was ready. It leapt into the air, its massive wings propelling it upward with a force that sent trees crashing to the ground. Emily clung tightly as the dragon roared, unleashing a stream of searing plasma toward the Antari's ship. The energy struck the crystalline hull, causing ripples to cascade across its surface but leaving it intact. Emily could feel the dragon's anger, its desire to fight back. But she also sensed its fear, the fear of returning to the chains that had bound it for so long. "It's okay," she whispered. "We can do this together." The Antari's ship retaliated, firing a barrage of smaller energy bolts. The Dracoseraphus twisted and turned in the air, its massive body surprisingly agile as it dodged the attacks. Emily felt every movement, her own instincts guiding the dragon as if they were one. Above, Zinter stared in disbelief. "She's controlling it," he muttered. "No, they're working together." The battle raged across the night sky, the dragon's plasma breath lighting up the darkness as it clashed with Antari's energy weapons. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, but she felt an overwhelming sense of determination. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for her new friend. Finally, the Dracoseraphus unleashed a deafening roar and dove toward the ship, its glowing scales pulsing with energy. The Antari fired one last desperate shot, but the dragon twisted at the last second, the beam grazing its wing. With a final burst of speed, it slammed into the side of the ship, claws tearing through the crystalline hull. The ship trembled, and Zinter barked orders as alarms blared. The Antari scrambled to stabilize the vessel, but it was too late. The dragon roared again, this time not in anger but in triumph. It hovered in the air, its massive wings outstretched as the Antari ship retreated into the rift from which it had come. Emily looked down at the dragon, her eyes shining with gratitude and pride. "We did it," she exclaimed, hugging its neck. The dragon rumbled softly, its glowing patterns shifting into calm, flowing shapes. For the first time in its existence, the Dracoseraphus felt something it had never known, freedom. And for Emily, the bond she shared with the dragon was more than just friendship, it was a promise to protect each other, no matter what. The stars twinkled above as the Dracoseraphus glided through the cool night air, its massive wings casting rhythmic shadows over the darkened countryside. Emily sat securely between the ridges on its neck, her arms wrapped around one of the creature's glowing spines. She looked up at the stars, her heart filled with wonder and pride. For the first time, Earth's skies belonged not to fear, but to hope. But the victory was short-lived. A streak of light flared across the heavens, and a familiar hum of energy filled the air. The Antari were not done. From the retreating rift emerged 3 more ships, each larger than the one before. Their crystalline hulls shimmered with an ominous light, their forms shifting like living nebulae. At the helm of the largest ship, Zinter glared at the screen, his many eyes burning with determination. "Enough of this nonsense," he hissed. "Deploy the suppression array. The girl will fall, and the Draco Seraphis will be reclaimed." The ships released shimmering orbs that spread out across the sky, forming a massive, glowing net. Emily and the dragon felt the energy before they saw it, a heavy, oppressive force that pressed down on them like a physical weight. "What's happening?" Emily asked, clutching the dragon's spine tightly. The Draco Seraphis roared, its wings faltering slightly as the net began to close in around them. On the ground, humanity watched in stunned silence. The images of the girl and the dragon had already spread across the world, captured by satellites and broadcast on every news channel. Crowds gathered around screens, their fear slowly transforming into awe as they realized the bond between the girl and the beast wasn't one of destruction but of harmony. In one small home, Emily's mother, Sarah, stood frozen in front of the television. Tears streamed down her face as she recognized her daughter riding atop the alien dragon. "Emily," she whispered, a mix of fear and disbelief choking her voice. Above, the Draco Seraphis growled as it fought against the suppressive force of the Antari's weapon. Emily closed her eyes, her mind sinking with the dragon's. She felt its strength, its pain, and its resolve. They were outnumbered and outmatched, but together, they could still fight. "We won't let them win," Emily whispered. "We can't." The dragon roared in agreement, its bioluminescent patterns flaring brightly as it surged forward, weaving through the tightening net. Energy bolts fired from the Antari ships, each one narrowly missing as the Draco Seraphis performed impossible maneuvers. But the net was relentless, closing in with every second. Back on the Antari flagship, Zinter leaned forward, his many eyes gleaming. "This is the end. The anomaly will be eliminated, and the Draco Seraphis will be ours again." But deep within the ship, a quiet rebellion was brewing. One of the Antari scientists, a slender figure named Kalon, watched the events with a growing sense of doubt. Kalon had always questioned the ethics of their experiments, but Zinter's obsession with control had pushed those doubts into outright defiance. "Enough," Kalon muttered. "This child and the dragon have done nothing but prove that we are the real monsters." With a quick motion, Kalon deactivated the suppression array, causing the glowing net to flicker and collapse. On the flagship's bridge, Zinter roared in fury as he realized what had happened. "Kalon! You traitor!" he bellowed, but it was too late. The Draco Seraphis, now free from the net's oppressive force, unleashed a roar so powerful it shook the very air. Its bioluminescent scales flared to blinding brightness, and Emily felt a surge of energy coursing through her bond with the creature. "We've got this," Emily said, her voice filled with determination. The dragon ascended rapidly, its massive wings propelling it above the Antari fleet. From its mouth, it released a beam of concentrated plasma, slicing through the hull of one of the ships. The explosion lit up the sky, a brilliant display of the dragon's raw power. On the ground, humanity cheered. The little girl and her dragon had become a symbol of resistance, of hope against impossible odds. As the Draco Seraphis turned its attention to the flagship, Zinter knew he was defeated. His fleet was crumbling, and the girl's bond with the dragon had made it unstoppable. In a final act of desperation, Zinter activated the ship's self-destruct sequence, determined to take the girl and the dragon down with him. "Emily, watch out!" Kalon's voice echoed through the translator beam, warning the girl of the imminent explosion. Emily looked down at the flagship, her heart pounding. The Draco Seraphis felt her fear, but also her resolve. Without hesitation, the dragon swooped toward the ship, its glowing claws slicing through the hull to create an opening. It roared once more, unleashing a pulse of energy that disabled the ship's core, stopping the self-destruct sequence just in time. In the chaos, Kalon used the opportunity to escape in a small shuttle, carrying with him the data that could prove to the Antari Council that Zinter's methods were flawed. With the battle over, the remaining Antari ships retreated into the rift, disappearing into the void from which they came. The Dracoseraphus landed gently in the meadow, its massive body glowing faintly as it folded its wings. Emily slid down from its neck, placing her small hands on its nose. "We did it," she said softly, tears streaming down her face. "You're free now." The dragon nuzzled her gently, its rumbling purr filling the quiet night. Epilogue. The world would never forget the day a little girl and an alien dragon saved Earth. The Dracoseraphus, once feared as a harbinger of destruction, became a symbol of hope and unity. Emily returned to her family, her bond with the dragon intact. The creature stayed close, soaring through the skies as a guardian of its newfound home. Far away, in the vastness of space, Kalon presented his findings to the Antari Council. The evidence of the bond between Emily and the Dracoseraphus forced Antari to reconsider their ways. Perhaps, they realized, there was more to life than control and domination. And for Emily, life was forever changed. She and the Dracoseraphus shared a connection that transcended worlds, proving that even in the darkest times, kindness and trust could overcome the greatest of challenges.